the podcast proud with my picks.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another COVID-filled episode of Phil and the Mike. I, as always, am Michael, and with me, the guy with the stupid hat. Actually, Phil Calise, thankfully, was able to get here. He was stuck for over 18 hours on I-95 in Virginia the other day. Phil, how are you, man? You okay? That must have been a tremendous ordeal.
If COVID doesn't get me, pneumonia would have got me on I-95 for sure. So,
all our listeners want to know, when you were stuck in your car for 18 hours, how did you go to the bathroom? What did you do?
Those gigantic, those Gatorade bottles, those 32 ounces, you got to keep a few in the car for a rainy day.
Oh, so. See, that's perfect, because then if you get thirsty, you can empty it and then you can use it again.
You do a little toss out the window. Yeah. What are you going to
do? I wasn't talking about tossing it out the window, but you do what you got to do when you're surviving.
You do. Exactly.
And
for the tough sake times, call for some tough measures. And, we're in a tough time right now. COVID 3.0 is back. It's like a trilogy. Omicron.
I mean, it's
a trilogy.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah. Brooke got her test back today, positive.
So both your girls got positive.
Aubrey had it. I had it. Trisha's the only one that really has symptoms, and she's the one that tested negative. But we've decided, since she feels like she's left out, that we're just going to say that she's got it also.
Well, and the thing is, I've heard this from so many people, that the most symptomatic person in the house has tested negative in like 5 occasions. And the people that have like sniffles or nothing are testing positive. I think at this point, and this is just a quick COVID conversation, obviously, because it's just everywhere, is between the fact that everybody's waiting in line 3 hours to get a test. You could barely get tests anyway. Could you imagine what the backlog is there, and how many inaccurate tests are rolling out, and just the massive mess this is? Like, who knows who's really positive, who's negative? Who even knows, like, Omicron, if it's harder to gauge positive, negative? Like, nobody knows, dude. It's mostly a head cold, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And like, hopefully it burns through the country now and we're done with this, unless there's, some crazy variant coming from the Philippines or some faraway land that's coming with like 18,000 hooks in it to come get sliced Aaron's throat off.
I mean, who the hell knows?
I don't know.
Who the hell knows? But you know what? I wanted to start off our podcast with a remembrance. And that is, I think that everybody lost their sweet old grandmother, Betty White, who died 18 days before her 100th birthday. And I got to be honest with you. And I kind of came to this realization when I think it was her agent or her manager came out and said, although Betty was almost 100, I felt like she was going to live forever. And I kind of feel the same, like when you think about it, like she was planning for her birthday, and I think she was already planning for her 150th birthday. So I for some reason, I never thought Betty White was going to die. And she was just, I don't know a single person that doesn't think that she was wonderful.
That makes half this podcast. Only half of our podcast dynamic duo didn't think she was going to die. I felt very confident she was going to pass.
Well, eventually, yes, of course. But I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying, man. Come on.
Thank you for being a friend. I was going to sing it to you. Come on. You have to, like, all right, real quick, Betty White. Obviously, we don't really do any show prep. So, like, this is not a topic I knew you were going to bring up. But when you think of Betty White, what comes to mind? Obviously, Golden Girls, right? Like, you have to think of Golden Girls. She's the to me, maybe, I don't know. I think of Golden Girls and I think of her as I think, what was her name? Rose on Golden Girls. And she's the one that always told the wacky stories and was like, she was
like out there.
She was like, oh, on my farm in Oklahoma.
That's right.
We used to raise the cattle and shoot the chickens and get the eggs. And then you get like Sophia, the little old lady, who ironically was the youngest member in real life, would be like, just look at her with disgust and you'd die laughing. Like, it's just a funny bit. And it never got old for some reason. When I think of Betty White, I think of that. I actually think of her in the movie with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock.
That's what you think about? The Proposal?
Well, thank you for telling me the name, because I couldn't remember. Well, I gave you Golden Girls, which I think is she's most famous for, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I would say so. That's probably her
All
most.
right, so Golden Girls. So I think of her in that movie for whatever reason. She made me laugh in a few scenes that stood out to me. And then I'm trying to think, like, what's the third thing I think of her? What do you think of her in? Am I
Well,
missing something
she
big?
was actually in a show. I want to say it was like 2010 to 2015 called Hot in Cleveland,
Yeah.
and that was pretty funny too. It had um, 3 stars. One woman was from one was Valerie Bertinelli, who was in
Oh yeah.
that I don't even know what that 80s show was.
My kids love her because of Kids Baking on Food Network.
Okay,
Oddly
okay.
enough.
She was in it, and then you had one of the women from Frasier. That's all my
Yeah,
all-time
you're
favorite
talking
show.
above my pay grade right
And you
here.
had another person, Wendy Malick, who was actually is a pretty big star. She's in everything. So it it was good. I actually watched a few episodes of it, but then it was like, I mean, what am I going to do? I mean, it was like tainting Betty White's memory for me. Like I
Got it.
needed to see her in Golden Girls only, like Hot in Cleveland. No, it didn't do it for me.
It's funny too when someone famous lives like really beyond the normal life expectancy, you almost only really think of them as that being like their biggest accomplishment in some ways. Like, because now like her living to it, like George
Yeah.
Burns and her, right? Like George Burns lived after past 100. Well, really famous for a multitude of things, but really what you think of him as is living a really, really long life.
Well,
And that
there's
is what
another
I
one.
kind of think of her now as mostly, is like just living a really long life and being healthy enough to still pop in on TV and be funny and
It's true.
all that. That's
It's
what you
true.
think of her as,
You know who's another one? Kirk Douglas. But when I
Kirk.
picture Kirk Douglas, all I picture is this guy being wheeled around that can't move, he can't talk. He was just like, just
Well, that right, depending on
kind of
how you age,
smiling.
like
That was
George
it.
Burns, it was
So
like the cigar and like just that
right,
that
right.
little
Like
look.
you don't remember what these people for what they were way back
Right,
when.
because
Because their career is
they
so freaking
become
long.
famous in essence for being really old and still like vibrant and whatever. So
But
it's
you know
interesting.
what? I do have a really interesting fact about Betty White that I'll bet you didn't hear. And this is
I
pretty
probably
awesome.
didn't.
Betty White is one of the few rare people that was alive for all 27 of the Yankees World Series victories.
That's cool.
All their wins, she was alive for. Yep.
That's cool.
It's pretty wild. I mean, I thought that was kind of
I
interesting.
mean, it's also got to be then a fact that she lived and survived through both pandemics.
She survived through a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying the two pandemics that hit the country.
Yeah. Well, she also survived through the Great
A multitude
Depression,
of, yeah, I
Spanish
know.
flu.
No, I was talking about the
World
Spanish
War
flu
II.
and then COVID,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. She lived through
global
all three.
pandemics.
It was a heck of a life, and we could probably talk about her all episode. But let's move on to some more fun topics, because I know Betty would want us to.
Yeah, she would.
She would. So, those of you that don't know, Betty was actually a big fan of Phil and the Mike, and we appreciated her. And
we almost had her on.
Yeah,
Close.
she actually made quite a bit of money over the last year, on Phil's picks. I mean, she took fill up your bank account pretty seriously, which was great. And Phil, man, another solid week, adding to your solid year. 3-2 overall, 38, 24-1. Not too shabby. And once again, you won your lock, 12-5 on the year in locks. There's nothing wrong with that. And no matter what you say, okay. Now people didn't hear this because we hadn't started the show yet. When I first got on, I said, Phil, what's with the hat? And he goes, I always like to wear a hat of my team, a team hat when I'm on here. And I said, dude, that's not a team hat. That's a university hat. It says ND. It doesn't say ND football, ND basketball. You're a fan of the university, not of the hat. So what I say to you for your jackass stupid comment, you got to take the hat off. Get that hat out of here.
What's right? You can't boss me around like that.
Is your you know what I think it is? I think your head is just you overshined it today.
No,
so the glare would just be too
I got COVID head now. It's eroding. It's eroding my brain. I got little missing fragments.
Well, since the hat is holding in your brain, let's see how you do with our 5 questions this week. All right.
Let's do it. Let's go.
All right. Question number 1. We're also going to turn this into a little bit of a trivia quiz for you. All right.
You know me.
So I like to call last week the week of the backup. I don't know if people realize there were 9 backup quarterbacks that started last week. 9. I mean, that is ridiculous. And so we're going to start off with our game. I'm going to name the quarterback, and you're going to name the college. All right. There's 9 of them. The over-under is, I would say, let's go with 6.
I'm going to get 6.
6 of 9. All right. We're going to start off with the great Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon. Did Mike Glennon?
I got to be honest with you. I'm going to be disappointed if you don't get this one.
Yeah, I will be a little bit too, because he's been around a long time. I'm just trying to. So there was one school that popped into my head immediately, but before I said it, I'm now getting cold feet on it. But I'm going to have to stick to it because it's the only name that really jumped out immediately. NC State.
You're absolutely wrong. It was Rutgers.
Mike Glennon went to Rutgers. Why did Rutgers always suck? I mean, he's not a bad quarterback.
No, he. Were you watching the Giants game last week?
Well, now he stinks, but I'm sure if he's been in the NFL a while, you would think he'd have been good at Rutgers.
No, he was.
I don't know why NC State stuck in my head. Okay. 0-1.
I mean, listen, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
Wait, you don't even have this verified?
No, I thought I verified Mike Glennon.
Okay, I'll check while you're doing this.
All right, you check on me. Andy Dalton.
Did Andy Dalton go to TCU?
He did go to TCU. Good job. Okay. Good job.
Well, hold on a second. Let me just real quick. Let me just verify that you make an A out of me, but I'd like to at least know. He went to NC State, you fool.
Who am I getting him confused with?
I don't know, but you can't do a trivia, me be right and have to fact check you.
How did I miss that one, man?
I didn't think I mean, I'm a Jersey guy. I didn't think Mike Glennon went to Rutgers, which is why I was really baffled when you said Rutgers. If you would have said any other school, by the way, I wouldn't have fact checked you. One of our great listeners would have told us we're both fools.
All right.
But thank goodness you said Rutgers.
Okay. So I got one wrong. All right. Shoot me already.
I'm 2 for 2.
Who was their quarterback? They had a quarterback that played in the NFL. Who was it?
Rutgers?
All right, I don't know.
I don't know. Rutgers is terrible. That's the point. I didn't think they had any NFL quarterbacks. Oh, Ray Lucas from like 100 years ago?
I thought there was one after.
Well, he played for the Jets for a little bit.
It doesn't matter. Thank you for catching that error. My apologies.
Yes.
I apologize.
2 for 2.
Don't call me Tyrone Huntley.
I knew you were going to bring him up, and I genuinely am going to throw a guess out. I still keep confusing him with Brett Hundley, the UCLA quarterback. So I know not to pick that school.
I mean, they look alike.
So I'm going to go, I think it's a weird school, but I don't know.
You know what? It doesn't make any sense that he went to that school. It's not a fit. If you ask me, it's very strange.
Ty Huntley.
Yeah.
I don't have a really good guess, but for some reason, I think he's a Pac-12 guy, but I'm just thinking of UCLA. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with Mississippi State.
He actually is a Pac-12 guy, but for Utah.
Oh, Utah. Okay, I would have never guessed that.
Right? That for some that doesn't make
2
sense.
2 for 3. I'll take 2 for 3.
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock. I want to make Washington,
Missouri.
He transferred from Washington.
I don't think so. I think that's Drew Bledsoe. No, that's Washington.
I mean, I've earned the right to fact check, you know.
Oh my God, here we go.
Come on, go ahead. I'm ready. Keep going.
All right. This one you're going to get Davis Mills.
Davis Mills was Stanford.
Yes.
No, just Missouri. Go ahead. I was wrong. Go ahead. I'm 3 for. What am I? 4 for 6?
No, you're 3 for 5.
Okay.
Trey Lance.
Well, that's the new what retarded school did he go to? Can you say that word on air? Is North Dakota State?
It is North Dakota State.
I just didn't want to say I didn't want to get it wrong with what are the Dakotas.
That was 4 for 6. That was good. 4 for 6. 4 for 6. 3 to go. Taysom Hill.
BYU.
Obvious as it can be. Okay. What is that? 5 for 7? All right. Now this one is, these last two are going to be a little challenging. This guy went to 2 schools. Okay. So you have your
I could say 2. I could say
right? Tim Boyle.
Kentucky.
Man, you're so close. I can't give it to you though. I can't give it to you. Eastern Kentucky. That's a big difference. SEC or whatever Eastern Kentucky plays for. So
what other school did he go to?
Connecticut.
Jeez.
I know they're they're incredible football team. And then your last one. This is to hit the over under. I don't even know what his first name is. Manning. Is it
who?
Sean Mannion? Mannion. He plays for Minnesota.
So I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm going to go with my gut. I think he went to one of the two schools, and they're both state schools.
Yeah. Which one?
Oregon State.
Yeah, he does it. The man does it. Yeah. Woo! Yeah.
So,
I love it, man. Congratulations.
Go. 6-9.
I don't know where you pulled that one out of, but that was awesome.
I was actually between Oregon State and Arizona State.
Wow, dude, that was incredible, man.
So you thought that one was hard, but I butchered. Which one did I get wrong? I got a few wrong. Yeah.
You missed Hundley. That was really tough. You missed Drew Lock.
Drew Lock was the one and Tim Boyle.
You were close. You were so close.
I was actually close, but I don't even know why I even thought of Kentucky, to be honest.
You hit the over under, man, and I thought that was tough. But anyway, so the question is, how important is a really good backup?
I mean, a really good backup. You could ask the New York Giants with Jeff Hostetler. You could ask. I mean, there's quite a few stories. Listen,
you asked the Patriots about Tom Brady. He was a good backup.
He was a good backup. They're happy about Drew Bledsoe getting blasted by Mo Lewis.
But I mean, nowadays with all of the injuries, I mean, it seems really rare that guys even play a full season.
So I mean, I would look at it this way: if you are a team aspiring to be a playoff team, it's sacrilege not to have a good backup quarterback.
You really do,
because it will blow up and end your season. You could have a complete playoff roster. If your A quarterback goes down and you don't have a B quarterback, your season's over. If you're the Eagles and you can win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles after Carson Wentz has an incredible rookie year, but you have a guy like a Nick Foles that maybe not everybody realized was as good as he was or could step into that situation, but you need somebody who can at least manage a game with the right talent around him. Now, if you're the New York Jets, if you're the Jaguars, if you're a bad team, if you're the Lions, and you have an A, which isn't even an A, right? That's why you're a bad team. You have a B to start with. If you have a D as a backup, I mean, you were going to win 4 games anyway. So maybe it looks even worse. If our viewers recall the Jets a few years ago when Darnold went down and they were literally shuffling in some of the worst backup quarterbacks of all time, it was a big drop off even to Darnold, as crazy as that sounds. But the team was going nowhere anyway. So I just look at it that way. If you're a team building a playoff caliber team, you have to spend on a backup, and you got to be willing to spend decent money to have one.
It's true. And the interesting thing about that is if you look at this list of 9 guys, there's actually one that's going to make the playoffs, because either the 49ers or the Saints are going to win that 7th playoff spot in the NFC, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So
and that's a good example. The Niners and Saints are consistent playoff teams. You know they have playoff rosters, and they have at least adequate. Well, in the Niners case, it's a stud, high drafted rookie, which is one way to do it. And in the Saints case, it's a fullback turned quarterback turned tight end mixed together, and a better version of Tebow. But it's enough to steady the ship. So
no, it's true. It's true. All right. Number two. So congratulations on your call of the Steelers last week. That was a great call. Big Ben in his last home game won. The interesting thing about that was he completed 24 of 46 passes
for like 100 yards.
For 123 yards. Okay. That average is 2.7 yards an attempt, which honestly, I didn't even think was possible. I mean, is he just throwing screens the entire game? I mean, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His QBR was 11 and his rating was 56. So I wouldn't exactly call it
going out in style,
but he was helped out big time by Najee Harris, who had the best game of his career, rushed for 188 yards and a touchdown. And the interesting thing about Najee Harris is he actually leads the NFL in receptions by a running back with 70, which is really interesting. I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize he was,
Yeah. So to me, it turns out that it's just a little bit too late. If basically the Steelers can get in the playoffs, if they beat the Ravens, And if Indianapolis, who's a 15.5 point favorite, loses to Jacksonville, which I can say is probably not going to happen. So how would you describe Ben Roethlisberger's career? I mean, this is a guy that came out of Miami of Ohio, of all places. What do you think? How would you sum it up?
I will sum it up this way. And again, we don't prep for this, so this is just 2 sentences. This is what I think of Ben Roethlisberger. First sentence is he is a Hall of Famer. The second sentence is, so first sentence is he's a Hall of Famer, and the second sentence is the last of that era of quarterback that really I don't think you're going to see again, meaning such a big bodied, not necessarily fleet of foot, but a guy who could deliver punishment and run downhill at times in his early days.
Yeah.
But like, you don't really see the NFL going to the 245-ish pound quarterback anymore, because, and Roethlisberger's probably going to have a rough ending to his career, with just in terms of, into post career, because he's been hit a lot. I could see him having some struggles, just as he gets older, because he just took a lot of hits, and most of those hits were taken before they started calling everything a late hit. And so he still took the last of the brunts of the big hits that went out before they changed so many rules. But that's what I think of Roethlisberger, the last of that era, and a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
that's what I think of him.
I think that's a great way to put it. And he's probably more like 270 right now, but that's okay.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Number three, the Cleveland Browns, one of the biggest disappointments of the season. 7-9, they've missed the playoffs. They lost their last 3 games by 12 points total. I mean, they're in these games. They're not playing great teams. Phil Calise, you're the GM. What do you do in the offseason? What are the most important things you need to do?
What do I do? And I actually was you made me think of something to check, but I gotta pull it. So the Cleveland Browns are really like an enigma, because off of last year, Baker Mayfield had his best year.
Yeah.
And they made the playoffs, and they've had like a lot of NFL teams this year. COVID has hit them, but a lot of NFL teams can say that. They got hit with the injury bug a little bit, but a lot of NFL teams can say it. This is more than ever, these last couple of years, is who can withstand all the craziness and still be standing. So there's no excuses for them being this bad. I would say of the 32 NFL teams, they have the toughest decision in terms of quarterback. Most of them are black and white. The Giants have a tough one. There's 3 or 4 teams. I would say they're right up there at the top. My gut feeling is they keep him for one more year.
Yeah.
And they roll it back for one more year and see if he can get back to last year's Baker Mayfield. If he didn't have last year, I think he'd be gone. But I think last year was a really good year for him. And so I think he earned himself one more year, but no long-term extension. I think he's going to have to play out his rookie.
I think so.
Play out his rookie deal, and then it's a prove it year where they'll pay him. If he has a big year, a big bounce back year, he'll get paid. And if he doesn't, he'll be probably on another team.
Yeah, and you know what? He doesn't need the money. He's got all that. I don't even know.
You love those commercials, right?
What are I love the commercials. I don't even know what they're for though.
They're for Allstate, right, or State Farm?
State Farm.
Allstate.
I don't even know.
I don't even know either.
Whatever it is.
That's how much I like the commercials and don't remember.
I know, right? You don't even. So whoever's commercial that is, they're really missing the point. You're supposed to remember their brand and all.
Because I'm just falling in love with the commercial. That's really true.
Yeah. So interesting. Number 4, Joe Burrow. His last 2 games. Here's his stats: 67 for 85 for 971 yards and 8 touchdowns in quality wins versus the Ravens and KC. And yes, this is him on the Bengals, not him at LSU. So my question to you is 2 questions. 1, is he now a legitimate top 5 quarterback? And how high do you think this guy's ceiling is? You keep showing that damn Notre Dame sign. Nobody wants to see it.
How big? I mean, Burrow's ceiling is off the charts. If you're a Bengal fan, this has got to be the most excited you've been since the Boomer Esiason Bengals 40 years ago.
No doubt.
He's a stud. I think the world of Joe Burrow. I really do. I think he's just got to stay healthy, like you would say any quarterback. And he's oddly enough, the more slender version, I feel like, of like a Roethlisberger, right? He's the modern version of him, meaning if in this day and age where quarterbacks like to get out of the pocket a lot and run, he doesn't.
No.
He really wants to sit in the pocket, be elusive enough to be dangerous and get the ball deep to, to obviously to Jamar Chase and to T Higgins and to that group of very good receivers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but they, the NFL doesn't want 6'6", 260 anymore. So like, I think Joe Burrow is kind of like the modern version of that,
Yep.
where that's the only non-running quarterback is going to be like a Joe Burrow.
Yep.
But I
Yep.
think the world of Joe Burrow, and I think the Bengals they're the Cincinnati Bengals, so I have to hesitate to say this, but it feels like when you think of the transition the Steelers are going to be in, provided they don't land Rodgers or something crazy, and the Ravens being a little bit of an enigma at this point, and I'm not really sure what our boy and my fantasy disaster, Mr. Lamar Jackson, is, and the Browns being what they are,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Bengals are fairly set up to be the leader of a very good, consistent division for the next 5-7 years. We'll see if it pans out, but right now it looks really good for them.
And think about it. I mean, they've made potentially 2 home run picks in the last few years. I mean,
Higgins,
Chase is a beast. Higgins is a beast, and
Burrow.
And then you got Mixon as your running back. I mean, you got some weapons on that team.
I don't know who that GM is, but he should be taking some bows right now.
Yeah, he's done a great job. Reminds me of our GM. All right. Question number 5.
Shots at Joe D.
Question number 5. A little bit of a disappointing week last week for the Bills and the Cowboys. And I know that they're both in the playoffs. Who do you think is going to put it together and make a better playoff run?
Wait, did you say Bills though? The Bills beat the Falcons by 2 touchdowns.
I know, but the Bills, but they didn't. It was an ugly game.
Yeah. Josh Allen's had some bad games. Yeah, I got you.
Awful. So I'm saying, being that these two teams are not, I don't think either of them are playing at the level that they could be.
Well, I would lump in and say, to be fair, and the Bills, I mean, listen, I don't want to rip them for a 2-touchdown win in which their quarterback throws 3 picks and they still win by 2 touchdowns.
No, it's
I don't want to rip them. I don't want to rip them too much for that. The Cowboys have been this all year, and it's why I picked against them in my picks. Every time people are ready to anoint the Cowboys, they do what they've done for the last 2-3 decades, which is lose the game when they finally get the praise that they're the best team or they're right there. So I felt I was betting against their not being able to handle prosperity. And that's what I feel like the Cowboys have been. The Bills are dangerous, but if you look around the AFC in particular, 11-5, which would normally complete our seasons until we've added a 17th game. 11-5 is the 1 seed this year in the AFC. The AFC has been parity through the playoff teams.
It has been.
And there's been a whole bunch of 8-8. Like, if you look at the AFC, there's been a few bad teams, obviously the Jets and the Jags, and there's a few really bad ones. But the AFC has been pretty good in terms of not a lot of bad teams, but there hasn't been any great teams. The team I'm more disappointed in, to be honest, than the 2 teams you named, because I expect it from the Cowboys. And the Bills have been up and down all year, to be honest.
I know.
The team that disappointed me a little bit, and I also picked against them, though, was the Chiefs, who have not, they had a nice run in the middle, but then they go to Cincinnati and lose, and they're not and they gave up the 1 seed in that loss. So, I think our boy Aaron Rodgers is got the Packers as the clear number 1 of ones going into the playoffs. After that, there's no clear number 2 on either side. I think the Packers are a little bit of a notch above everyone else, and then everybody else is kind of fighting for that next group.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see, and we'll talk about that next week. Let's go with our game ball. And I think it's kind of a pretty clear cut who's going to get the game ball, but
run it back with Joe Burrow.
I think we're going to have to 30 for 39, 446 yards and 4 touchdowns
back to back.
A 148.
Are you going to call his agent, or should I, to let him know he's won back-to-back players of the week?
It's impressive. And listen, I mean, Najee Harris, I think, had a great week. Jamar Chase, 11 receptions, 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. Monster. Nothing wrong with that either, but Burrow is he is a man on a mission. And I
thought you second, though, we're going to talk about Antonio Brown and his 3 catches, 26 yards, and his sprint naked off the field.
Oh, we're going to talk about him in a minute. Believe me.
Player of the week.
I just want to, I want to talk about a couple other things really quickly, very quickly. Records. There shouldn't be any records set this year, even though it's a 17-game season, except for TJ Watt. He's got 21 and a half sacks. So,
and he's done it in like 13 games.
He hasn't even done it in the full amount of games, but but here's my thing. This is kind of a challenge, because I know a lot of people are talking. I think you even mentioned it with the 17 game. If you're setting records, it's kind of like an asterisk, right? But here's the thing. We're so used to the 16-game season. We do realize that in the early 70s and before, it was a 14 season. Yep. So the 14 game has been compared to the 16 game, and there's no asterisks there. So the 17 game. So now potentially you're talking about comparing a 17 game season to a 14 game season. I don't even know. They would have to go back and they would have to revamp all of their records and everything.
I don't even put a lot of stock in the 14, 16, or 17, just simply because when you talk about the NFL, the game has evolved so drastically that no running backs get enough carries to ever approach the old guys in terms of any stats. And the quarterbacks and wide receivers will blow past all the old guys with no chance to ever. Now, if you look at the top 25 quarterbacks in passing yards, if you see who's already approaching in the 30s to start busting into the top 25, nobody would consider these guys the top 25 quarterbacks. No. At the end of the day, in 20 years, when we're, old men, the top 25 list will not include anybody from a decade earlier than the mid 90s.
It's true.
And so the game just changed, and you'll never see a running back compile anywhere near the Emmitt Smith yardage or any of that stuff again. It's over. So it's just a different sport. Basically, it's a different sport. So 14, 16, or 17 games, they could play 20 games.
Yeah.
And the running backs of today will never meet the old guys' numbers.
For the most part.
They just don't get the carries. They don't get the touches.
For the most part. But didn't Henry run for 2,000 yards last year?
I'm talking, when I was saying that, I was more focused on the length of the career yardage.
Oh, career. Guys, forget it.
Just never going to touch it. Yeah, Derrick Henry can burst through. 1 year, you can get something, an outlier, but you're never going to get the 10, 12 years at, 1,250 yards a year.
No,
and that kind of stuff. 1,500 yards a year. It's over.
It's not going to happen. No, you're right.
And now bad quarterbacks throw for more yards than Joe Namath did in any year. Like, it's just different. Like, the worst quarterback throws for almost 2,600 yards.
I know. It is what it is. It is what it is. Your boy Pitts on tight end for Kyle Pitts. First rookie tight end in 60 years with 1,000 receiving yards. Is that a big deal?
It's been the most blasé 1,000 yards, honestly.
It really has been. But if you think about it,
he's caught one touchdown this year. Can we say what? He's been disappointing to me, and I had him in fantasy, so I want to try to remove the emotional side of him and nauseating, just annoying me for 16 weeks. Because I never cut him and I never traded him, and I just kept him and I started him every week. But his stat line on average, I feel like, was 3 catches for 57 yards, no touchdowns.
Yeah,
that was his stat line. It was
can you get what? He's had some good performances.
A few.
As a rookie, I'm okay with that.
Well, he's had 50, 60 yards every week. So that's where the 1,000 yards consistency came from. But I never would have envisioned a player of his size and his skill level having 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I can't argue.
That blows me away. I thought on accident he'd have had 10 touchdowns.
Listen, I like what I've seen out of him. I think that if he stays healthy, he could have a really nice career.
I agree.
I think he's a great player.
I agree.
Congratulations to Andre Whitworth. He became the oldest left tackle to start an NFL game at age 40. Congratulations, Andre. I know you're a big
Rams,
fan.
Right?
Thanks for listening.
Still on the Rams?
Yes. Le'Veon Bell joined the Buccaneers. Turns out he's trying to be like his idol, Adrian Peterson. Who's going to end up playing for more teams, him or Adrian?
Nobody can play. Nobody can play for more than AP all day. AP, what's his name?
Just putting it out there now. Biggest rumor that has slipped. The big announcement of the Washington football team's new name. Did you hear about it?
The Admirals?
The Admirals. What do you
Is
think
there
about
any
them?
truth to the rumor that David Robinson will be announcing that?
Honestly, I thought he had trademarked that name. So actually, I think there's some guys in the Navy that are really pissed off about
Is
that.
there any truth that he is the mascot? A
Dude,
7'1" dude roaming the
man,
sidelines.
I would not call him a mascot. He is the man.
He's a big boy.
OBJ with Cleveland, 29 games, scored 7 touchdowns. With LA Rams in 7 games, he scored 5 touchdowns. Is he back? Yes or no?
I think he did end up in the right spot in terms of like he's a Hollywood kind of dude. He is not a Cleveland Brown kind of dude. I think he was rejuvenated by that. But hey,
Yep.
you know what? It really helps that Mr. Cooper Kupp sitting on the other side with his
Cooper
200
Kupp.
catches, and he's freed up to be facing second and third corners. So
Yep.
I think it helps. I think that the knock on OBJ is he's actually done best post his 3-year early Giant career. He's always done best when he's had a big time receiver complimenting him on the other side.
That is true.
And when Cleveland suffered injuries, he never really was a number one since he's been a
that's a
Brown.
good call. That's a good
He's
call.
really never been a one. He's been a 2, and he's done well as a 2, and now he gets a chance. And he's in perfect weather, dome. I think he'll be rejuvenated. I think he'll make them a little dangerous in the playoffs.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Now we got to talk about and hopefully we can get through this topic pretty quick. Your man Antonio Brown.
I don't think he's a clown.
So here's the thing, right? So he storms off the field. He takes off his shirt. I think he just wanted to show off his six pack, which pissed me off because I've got like a keg under here. But he needed 8 catches to earn a $333,000 bonus. He needed 55 yards for a $333,000 bonus and 1 touchdown for another $333,000 bonus. So he actually left $1 million on the table. He's saying that he has major ankle injury. The trainers shot him up with some good stuff on his ankle so that he could play. And they all knew that he was in bad shape, and he told them that he could not play anymore, and that's why he had a hissy fit. And the Buccaneers are saying the exact opposite. We told him to go in, he was cleared, blah, blah, blah. How do you decipher this thing? And what's really going on here? And is it just and take away the fact that you just think he's crazy, because we all think he's crazy, but what's the truth in here? I mean, how do you read between the lines with this whole situation?
I think you do something that has been lost on America in the last decade. You use common sense. The guy provided a fake vaccine card. He's an absolute lunatic. I'm going to believe the good, solid Buccaneers organization over him. And by the way, anything's possible. Is there a small percentage chance he's actually decided to tell the first truth in the last decade he's come out of his mouth? Sure. But here's the thing. Antonio Brown, who got himself in trouble with the vax stuff, was given another chance. It's like his 19th chance, right, to come back to the Bucs, and they needed him, and they had a slew of injuries, so it was a chance that they needed to take because they needed his talent. But you pull that stunt, it's hard for me to believe he's finally telling the truth. And guess what? If he is, and he's totally on the up and up, and he's telling the truth, and they're blackballing him or doing something to him, karma. You've lied enough in life.
True.
You've caused enough chaos everywhere you've been. If the one time you're right, you get burned, I don't feel bad for you.
It's like the boy that cried wolf. I mean, what else?
I don't feel bad for you, because Mike Tomlin's a straight up guy, and he drove him nuts in Pittsburgh. He did what he did to Gruden in Oakland. He's a nut job, and I'm done with Antonio Brown. I wish people would stop giving him a chance, but they just keep giving him a chance. So
I actually heard this today that the NFL has figured out how to get to the bottom of this, and that is they're going to look up all of John Gruden's emails to see what really happened. I hope not. Anyway, it is time for my favorite part of the show. Fill up your bank account. Now, just to tell everybody, a little preface this is the last week of the season. Okay. Yeah. There's only 3 playoff spots left. So some of the seedings are already set. So you're going to see guys maybe not playing this week and other guys that are playing, and who knows what's going to happen. So it's a little bit of a different situation. I think it's a different kind of pressure on you, Phil, and this will really show our listeners how great you are. So I am not going to talk anymore. Let's fill up our bank account right now.
Yeah. 30-second. If we could put a chyron at the bottom of this thing, I think the thing that it would scroll over and over in big bold letters is, do not bet week 18. Do not bet week 18. do not waste your money. And that's
right.
just because, like you said, there's going to be teams playing players for a half. The
Yep.
spreads are out of whack because even Vegas doesn't know how to account for instance, Aaron Rodgers is going to play, but he's going to play a quarter. He's going to play a half. Who knows what he's going to play?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So if you are going to bet week 18, my advice would be pick teams that need to win the game.
Yeah.
Right. So at least you're not going to get burnt with like a backup coming in and
Yeah.
you losing a game because of that. And don't bet two teams that it means nothing to,
Yeah.
because that could really be like a preseason game. So if you're going to put real money on the line, at least go with, find some teams that have skin in the game and are playing all out to win the game, and
Right.
then let the chips fall where they may. With that being said, I probably will contradict this a tiny bit, but I will mostly not contradict it. Because at the end of the day, there's a reason football is a sucker's man's bet. So,
That's true.
but,
That's true.
but I'm, I'm 38, 24 and 1. So, it is what it is. So here we go. First game, I'm going to bet a game that may have implications, but probably don't. I do like the fact that the NFL makes a lot of these games at the same time. So, teams have to play because they have an outside shot. So I'm going to go with the first one. Again, it's a little sentimental, but they've been good to me. I'm going to go back to the Steelers. I'm going to go back to the Steelers getting 5.5 points against the Ravens. Now, the Ravens have nothing on the line. They're having their most disappointing season, perhaps in, I don't know, a decade. They're not making the playoffs for the first time in a long time. They got Lamar Jackson, who's been hurt or had COVID all year, it seems like. And Huntley's made a name for himself.
Yeah.
But you get the Steelers getting 5. And if the Steelers are, even with a very minute chance they can make the playoffs, because the Colts are not going to lose to the Jaguars, I do think Tomlin, Roethlisberger's last game ever, they're going to give a good performance. TJ Watt's chasing a sack record. There's a lot there for them to play well, and you get 5.5 points. So I'm going to take the Steelers.
Yep. I like it.
The second game is a game that has everything on the line, which is the Titans-Texans game. The Titans are playing for the 1 seed, which means even more than it normally does because there is no bye to the 2 seed. So if you want a week off, you have to win the 1 seed. There's no way the Titans aren't going to beat the Texans. The Texans have been scrappy of late. I will give them that. But I'm going to ride with the Titans -10 to put a hurting on the Texans because they have to, and they got to play the game all out. So again, that's another one I like. Here's an interesting one. I just made my lock of the week last week, betting against a team who won 8 straight games because I felt so confident that was coming to an end because A, I like the Titans myself, and B, I really, really thought the Dolphins played a soft schedule to earn a lot of those wins. But here's an interesting now tidbit going the other way. The Patriots are playing to try to win a division. It's a long shot because the Bills play the Jets, and the likelihood is the Jets aren't going to beat the Bills. But they have to win a division, or they have to play to win a division, but they struggle mightily against the Dolphins. They particularly struggle at Miami, but they always struggle against the Dolphins. And now I think the Dolphins get 6.5 points in a game where, while they're out of it, I think they play hard for this coach. And I think he rallies around trying to ruin the Patriots' run. And so I think the Dolphins play a good game and cover, getting 6.5. I think they keep it close, and they give the Pats a tough game.
Nice.
That's my first 3. Now, all games that matter. So I've been sticking to the all games that matter. This game also matters, but I'm breaking every rule under the book. I've been wrong betting against my team 3 weeks, and I'm going to do a little wrinkle in week 18. The first week, I'm picking my team. First time all year, I went 18 weeks, and I'm going to go to them for 1 week at the end of the year. And here's the rationale. It's not an emotional rationale either. The Jets are playing for nothing. So it's not like I'm whimsical and they can make the playoffs or something like that. They're getting 16.5 points against Buffalo. Buffalo is a team that has had some big covers. They've also been a team that have been in head scratching close games over the season. Here's what I like about the Jets in this game. they're playing hard for Salah in his rookie year, evidenced by beating the Jaguars, playing the Bucks to a really close game where they had to lead the whole game.
Yep.
So the idea that Buffalo needs the game, yeah, I'm going to concede they're going to probably win the game. I don't think the Jets have much of a chance to win outright. I think they got a tiny chance. But what I like about the Jets here is Elijah Moore's supposed to be back. Like normally these guys, Quinnen Williams is coming back. Normally they would sit the last game if you've been out a few weeks, but they're trying to use this game, from what I understand, to like give the players a feel for a playoff game. Obviously, since they can't earn one themselves and never seem like they're gonna, right, as an organization. So there's been a lot of talk all week in the local media that Salah is like preaching, this is a playoff game for us. You're going to play in front of 70,000 raucous fans. The Bills are trying to clinch the division. And he's treating it like it's a big game to get them ready for next year when hopefully they make a big jump. And I just think the Jets are going to come out and play a really good game, lose, but cover 16.5. So that's my rationale.
Cool.
And I didn't really start by saying I'm picking 5 games, but I didn't do my lock yet. So clearly I'm picking a 5th game. The 5th game I saved, it's the early game on Saturday. So the NFL went to these 2 Saturday games. They're trying to give you games that matter, and they're spreading them out to give more, obviously more ratings.
Yeah.
There's no way on God's green earth I'm picking against the Chiefs when they have to win the game themselves. They're still trying to win the 1 seed. They're still playing all out. They want to finish at least as the 2 seed.
Yep.
And the Broncos have, for whatever reason, went south. And I just think 10 points isn't that big of a number for one team that's packed it in and one team that's trying to now end on a strong note to go into the playoffs on a good note. So I feel like it's a pretty comfortable lock that the Chiefs put a big number on the Broncos. I think I've been very good with not only picking my locks, but picking games that don't end up being very close.
Yeah.
I really would be surprised if the Broncos are within 17 points of this game. I think it's a pretty comfortable cover. So that's how I conclude week 18 in my season. 5 more games, another lock. We'll see where we go.
See where we go from there, man. You've had a great season so far and 5 great games. But like Phil said, do not bet. Do not bet. That is the rule for week 18. You just don't know what's going to happen. It should be fun, though. It should be fun.
Should be fun. Should be a lot of good games. And by the way, we didn't talk about it, and I was going to bet the game because it means the most. There's one game where both teams are literally playing a play-in game.
That is
the
our
Chargers Raiders.
That is our next topic. Yes,
right, perfect.
Yes, it rolls right into it. NFL playoffs, and the question is who gets the last spots. And let's go with the AFC first. So we've got 5 teams that are in out of the 7. We've got Cincy, KC, Tennessee, Buffalo, and New England. So no matter what they're in, their seedings, we're not going to talk about seedings. We're just going to talk about who gets into the playoffs. All right. Now, we think probably fairly strongly that Indianapolis is going to get a spot because they play Jacksonville and they're favored by 15.5. All right. So we'll just assume that that's going to happen. Okay. The Steelers could get in if they beat the Ravens and Indianapolis loses, but we know Indianapolis is not going to lose. There's no chance. So we're going to say goodbye to the Steelers. Thanks for playing, but a little too late. So that comes down to the Chargers at the Raiders. And the Raiders, surprisingly enough, have been playing some good ball, right? So, they got a home game. This is the first year in Las Vegas. You think they're able to come out and snag that last playoff spot here?
I don't, but I don't. It's not a knock on the Raiders at all. The Raiders have been a very scrappy team when you factor in what happened with Gruden in the middle of the year. I don't have any knock on the Raiders at all. I'm just going to ride with the better quarterback in this game, and that's really all it is. It's not a knock at all on. It's not a knock at all on the Raiders. Herbert, as we like to say, has been. Herbert, I'm sorry. The French. I can never get that. Bear. That's
Justin Herbert.
I like to think of it then once you say that as a big old Southern redneck.
Bear.
I got to go with him. And a fun fact, the Raiders opened that beautiful new stadium and they've actually, I want to make sure I got this right. My computer's being weird. I mean, they've actually been better on the road. They're 4-4 at home. They haven't been very,
but it's not really a home game yet. I mean, they got to get settled into the stadium.
That's the thing. Fan bases from all over go to Vegas, make it a weekend. That was a tough place to make a home stadium. I mean, that's a tough one. So
It is. I mean, listen, I just want to see a fun game. I
I
mean,
think it will be.
and
Yeah.
that's the only game where the winner of the game makes the playoffs, which is
Yeah.
exciting. I mean, I like
And what do we
when
got in the NFC? We got a couple of options, right?
NFC, here's who's in. We've got 6 teams in already. We've got Green Bay, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Arizona, LA Rams, and the Eagles. Okay. The only other 2 teams that can get in are the 49ers and New Orleans. Now, the 49ers control their own destiny because if they beat the Rams,
Tough
they're
task.
in. That's a tough
Yeah.
task. They're in. If New Orleans loses to Atlanta, they're in.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the only way that New Orleans can get in is if they beat Atlanta and the 49ers lose. So based on that, who do you think is going to get that last spot? You think it's going to be the 49ers? You think it's going to be the Saints?
And it's so if the Chargers Raiders is the most compelling game in terms of both teams are playing an early play-in game, the Niners Rams have to be the second best game of the
Yeah.
week because
Yeah.
the Rams are still playing for everything. They're playing to
Yep.
be the 2 seed. They got a lot on the
The
line.
division.
The division could still be lost to the Cardinals, I believe, right? I mean,
they
there's
could literally go from like they could be either the 2 seed or probably what the
the
5th or
5
6th,
seed or the
the
4
5
seed.
seed.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That's
all
a
over the
big,
map.
that's a big difference. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Niners are desperate, but the Rams aren't far behind in terms of not wanting to fall off a cliff there. So that's a great game. You know what, oddly enough, I think is going to happen? I think they're both going to lose, the Niners and Saints.
And if they both lose, then the Niners get in.
I think it's going to be, and it happens once in a while. Once
Yeah.
in a while, 2 teams are playing that control their own fate, and they both lose the game. And I think that is what you might see. You might see the Rams play, the Rams win a close game, the Niners play well and lose. I don't think Trey Lance is beating the Rams. And then I could see the Saints losing to the Falcons because the Saints they're not that good either.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're just not that. I don't
It's
trust the
true.
Saints
It's
with
true.
Taysom Hill. So I think they both lose and the Niners get in.
Well, it'll be nice. And next week we're going to we'll do a little NFL playoff preview show where we make some picks and preview what's going to be happening. So it should be exciting. Let's move on to a little college football. And last week we each picked 5 games, and sure enough, you beat me again because I don't think I've beaten you in anything all season. And you went 3-2, and obviously I went 2-3. But a couple things that I wanted to talk about. One was the most fun game that I've seen in possibly all season was the Ohio State Utah game.
Mm-hmm.
48-45, Ohio State pulled it out because they were down most of the game. But I want to talk about their play. They had CJ Stroud, who was 37 for 46 for 573 yards and 6 touchdowns. All right. And we all know that their top 2 receivers were out. Right. So they had to, so their top receiver ended up being their third receiver, who was Jackson Smith Najigba, who all he did was catch 15 balls for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Maybe double them.
I mean, ridiculous, right? And then you had Marvin Harrison Jr., the freshman. I mean, we all know his dad was decent, right? Decent. He caught 6 passes for 71 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it's his coming out party. So seeing what these guys are doing and the fact that all 3 of these guys are going to be coming back next year, I mean, Ohio State's going to have a pretty serious team next year. Let's be honest.
I would be surprised if Ohio State's not the preseason number 1 next year.
Yeah. I mean, with that, I mean,
that's what I think of them. I mean, don't get me wrong. Alabama's going to have a lot to say and probably be number 2 or whatever, 1-2. But I think they'll be 1-2 either way.
Yeah, I don't, and I agree with that. And that brings us to last week. And we had Alabama that won 27-6 over Cincinnati, giving up 218 yards. That's all they gave up. And UGA beat Michigan 34-11, giving up 328 yards and getting 2 picks. So my question to you is, who had a more dominating performance last week?
It wasn't even close. And I'm not saying I feel like I ended up losing with taking Cincinnati plus 13.5, but I think my rationale proved to be pretty true, which was they played a good game. It was 17-6 into the 4th quarter. They could never get their offense going, and that's what cost them being closer than it was. And it's fair to say, like, you never felt like Alabama was really threatened in the game. And I think that would also be fair to say. But I don't think that was a dominant Alabama performance when you figure it's 17-6 into the 4th quarter. Juxtapose that against Georgia 14-0, 6 minutes into the Orange Bowl against Michigan.
Yeah.
And I said, this a week ago. I said this is not a good matchup for Michigan. It's a perfect matchup for Georgia's defense to dominate. They don't have a quarterback, Michigan. They're going to make them one-dimensional, and one-dimensional teams don't beat Georgia's defense. And that's exactly what happened. And if Georgia needed to score more and needed to win, and Michigan scored a touchdown with a few minutes to go.
Yeah.
That was an even bigger blowout than that. Georgia called off the dogs, no pun intended, and Michigan scored really late and got a 2-point conversion. They had 3 points with 3 minutes to go in the game. That was a total blowout. If you replaced Michigan with Notre Dame, they'd be making them a laughing stock, right? And it just is what it is. That's my bitterness. But Michigan took a whooping.
Well, let me ask you this though: who, as an Alabama or a Georgia fan, what are you more excited about? The fact that Robinson rushed for 204 yards, or the fact that Bennett threw for 313 and 3 touchdowns?
Well, so what I would hope if I'm a Georgia fan, if I'm looking at it from Georgia's perspective, is that Georgia really needed that loss to Alabama to like wake up. And it 3 weeks of hearing how they can't win a big game or whatever made everything come together. Bennett played really well, used his feet at times well. Yep. They obviously held the big stud edge rushers on Michigan at bay. Better than that, they dominated. Aiden Hutchinson, there's talk he may drop in the draft. He probably won't, but there was talk he was so dominated in that game that it's not a great way to end your career. And so I take more out of Georgia beating Michigan soundly than I would Alabama beating Cincinnati, not particularly soundly. Like I said, great. Robinson ran for 200 yards, but Cincinnati has no depth. That was always going to be the knock on Cincinnati coming from that conference and that school itself. Alabama wore them down. Totally wore them down, beat up on them late. But if Cincinnati had a semblance of an offense and that defense wasn't just dying on the field the whole game, I wasn't that impressed with Alabama's performance. I really wasn't.
Okay, fair enough. So here's the question, and from your opinion, it's actually 3 questions. One is, how do you think Alabama can win? 2, how do you think Georgia can win? And what do you think is going to happen?
I mean, I think it went underrated, or it was an underrated thing, but Mechie going out for Alabama in the Georgia SEC title game is a gigantic loss when it now comes to facing Georgia in a rematch. So that is a gigantic loss, not having him. How do I think Alabama wins? I mean, I think Alabama wins by wins really on a lower scoring scale. I think they win by dominating Stetson. I think they win by really imposing their will on the defensive side and then hitting on a few big plays with the quarterback, whether it be with his feet or some deep bombs, and they pick their spots. I think how Georgia wins is they actually establish Stetson Bennett doing some things to then start to run the ball. I think Alabama's got to try to take away the running game and make Stetson Bennett beat them. And I think if I'm Georgia, I come out and try to make this kid get comfortable quick, so he doesn't feel like he's in another 3rd and 9 when they ask him to throw. Like, I think they need to throw to set up the run. And I think Alabama's going to dare him to beat them. And I think he needs to beat them if Georgia's going to win. I don't think you're going to ride. Georgia's not going to be able to run the ball in Alabama if they don't want them to. I think Stetson Bennett has to throw the ball and use his legs at times. What I think will happen is I think I love Georgia in this game. I absolutely love them in a rematch. I think the loss to Alabama, I don't think Georgia is in a bad position like some people do. Some people think they just see Alabama and they melt. I don't really think that. I think they're going to galvanize behind the fact that they lost to him a few weeks back. They didn't have as much to play for. I do think that mattered in the game, but give Alabama credit. I think Mechie's loss is a big loss. And I think Georgia wins this game by absolutely playing great defense and Bennett making some big plays. And I think they win the game something like 24-17, 23-17. I don't think this is going to be a high scoring game. I actually think it's going to be on the lower side.
Yeah.
And I think Georgia wins. I think they finally break through and win a title. Interesting. What do you think, my Georgia resident?
Yeah, I know. I live in Georgia and I'm an Alabama fan. It's really difficult for a team to beat another team twice in one season, and we see that in the NFL, it's tough.
If they're fairly equal.
College, yeah, right, of course. But even so, home field advantage and whatnot, and and yeah, I think that Alabama, their first performance, I mean, I think they embarrassed Georgia. They really did. And you can see Georgia, it seems like they really took it out on a Michigan team that turns out is just not as good as people thought that they were, plain and simple. I mean, you look at their schedule and it was pretty much cupcake central. I mean, they had one quality win over Ohio State, who's shown
Let-
by beating Utah by 3 points, they are not even
I just
accepted.
want to defend this one thing because I hate Michigan, but I want to defend this concept that we've all fallen into with the playoffs, which is when a team goes to the playoff and gets blown out, now they didn't deserve to be there.
Oh yeah,
What we've seen in 7 years is there's typically 1 to 2 great teams,
yeah,
and
yeah.
everyone else gets shellacked in these
It's
games.
true. It's true.
And so it's like if they went to a 14 playoff, that's what they went to. I don't think Notre Dame never deserved to be there the two times they went. I think Oklahoma deserved it the times they went and got destroyed. Like I think we fall into this like lazy narrative that when you go there and get blown out, you didn't deserve to be there. The
Yeah, yeah,
average score in the semifinals is a 21.8 margin.
that's true. That's true.
So even Cincinnati losing 27-6, it falls
Yeah,
right in
yeah.
line with all these games end up. So
You're right. You're right.
it's just one of those things. There's typically 1 to 2 great teams, which is why people that were fans of the BCS said that was the best format. When they
Yeah, yeah.
finally got rid of the old way, if you remember, which is just conference alignment and the 1 and 2 teams played different teams in the bowls, which was just stupid. And you could have 2 teams tie at the end of the year because they both went undefeated. The BCS ended that. They said there's typically 2 great teams. We now play them and we decide it.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to look back, no matter how many teams we expand to, and probably look back at the 1-2 as being the best format.
It's true. It's true. It's true. And let's be honest. This is what college football wanted. I mean, this is what the committee wanted. They wanted it to be Georgia versus Alabama, and that's exactly how they had it set up. I mean, that's
Well,
the way it was.
and if you're a fan of the argument why the BCS doesn't work and why I didn't like it, is if you would have had what just occurred, Alabama, Georgia wouldn't have been the championship. Alabama, Georgia wouldn't have been the BCS title.
That's
It
right.
would have been Alabama, Michigan. Alabama beating Georgia, the SEC title game, the BCS would have never made them rematch 2 weeks
That's
later.
exactly right.
So you needed to have at least a 14 playoff to let them get back to face each other.
That's right.
So
That's exactly right.
it's a good, it's a better format because of that scenario.
Yeah. I don't think that Alabama can win this game again by 2 touchdowns, but I don't think that Georgia I don't think they can get over the hump. I just don't think they can beat Alabama in the big
That's
game.
fair.
That's what it comes down to. I mean, I think these are very evenly matched teams. I do. But like you say, a lot of times, you're going with the better quarterback when teams are pretty evenly matched up. And
Fair.
I got to go with the better quarterback. It's not even a competition. I mean, Bennett does not play well against. I mean, he did not play well against Alabama. So let's see what he does this time and prove to us that he's actually a decent quarterback, because I don't think he is.
It's 100% fair what you're saying. And most of the time you're going to win more than you're going to lose going with the better quarterback in these games. The one thing I would say to everyone before you bet this game and see where the number ends up, because there's another 5 days to go.
Yep.
You would think, I mean, this is again a spread where Vegas is begging you to take Alabama.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They're begging you to take Alabama. So like the smart money or the line is making you want to take Alabama.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
So
100%.
I'm on the other side of that, but it's not always the case. But I'm just saying it's begging you to take Alabama. You're getting points with the team who won by 3 touchdowns a month ago.
They are. So you think that spread's going to move?
Well, I'm going to be interested to see where all the because all the money, if anybody knows anything about betting, 90% of the money. So all the little guys who throw their $100 do it whenever. 90% of the real money comes in the day of.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see where the line goes. But something tells me this line's going to stay rock solid at around 2.5. And Georgia may even go in as a 3-point favorite in this game. I think late money is going to be on Georgia too. I think people think Georgia's the better team.
Interesting. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm just, like I said, I'm looking forward to just a good game. That's all I want to see, man.
I think you'll get a good game this time.
Getting excited. And I know my whole family, we're actually somehow we're Alabama fans. I'm not even sure how.
Who's Alabama fans in your family?
Huh?
Who's Alabama fans in your family?
All 4 of us are actually cheering for Alabama this year.
Well, the
last couple of years. I don't even know why. I don't know why my girls are, but like that's the only game. This is this will be the third game of the year that we all watch a football game together. They'll only watch Alabama games. It's very strange. So,
they must hate the Jets.
I'm excited. Well, thank God the Jets are never on here, but I'm excited to watch it with my family, if nothing else. So,
That's fun.
that'll be good things. Couple things I just want to end up on, and then we'll wrap this thing up. The Parker Solar Probe was launched 3 years ago by NASA, and basically what it is doing, as you can imagine from the solar word, it's probing the sun. And the reason I bring this up is I think it's really interesting. NASA was really excited because this is the first time they've ever penetrated the outer layer of the sun. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, for one, it's got to be hot as anything, right? For two, how close do you have to be, right? Until I realized that the outer layer extends for 8 million miles. Okay. So this probe has gotten within 8 million miles of the sun, and that's the outer ring. So I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I'm excited because I'd like to see some pictures from inside. I think that would be pretty awesome. But anyway, I just want to mention that. And then last but not least, man, it was a rough week, man. We had some real celebrities that passed away. All-time great from the Celtics died at age, I think, 88. Sam Jones, who actually won 10 rings during his time. Those great 50s and 60s Celtics teams. And honestly, I wasn't even sure he was still alive. He was a great signer through the mail years ago, but I don't know what happened to him. And you might know that his interesting piece of trivia, his son, who he had later in life, Sam Jones, I want to say the third, was actually on a show called Smallville, which I think is kind of interesting. I really enjoyed that show. And then we lost another football great who I'm still trying to figure out why he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. This guy actually, as a coach, a head coach, as an assistant coach, a head coach, and a player, he was in 9 Super Bowls. And just a great guy. He's got to get in the Hall of Fame. It's really a shame. I think they did him a disservice by not putting him in when he was still alive. Died at age 77 of, I want to say, dementia, and that's Dan Reeves. Dan Reeves, who I think is a Hall of Famer. I'm not sure what it takes to get in the Hall of Fame sometimes, but it's always bad when we miss a star like that. So condolences out to their families. They gave us fans a lot of great memories, and they will live on forever. So anyway. That's that. I hope everybody enjoyed the episode. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it tonight. Phil, I know you enjoyed it, even though we couldn't see your head. But if you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your friends. If you feel indifferent about us, tell your family. Tell everybody that you know about Phil and the Mike. I think we're starting to pick up some steam. Let's keep it going. Subscribe, comment. If you have any questions for us, submit those in. We haven't gotten a question this week, but we've had some in the past. So let's keep it going. Let's keep having fun. I'm working on getting some more guests. I've got 2 potential former athletes that have said they're interested, and keep your fingers crossed that they come on and share their story with me. And
I love our guest ones. That's fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy the week 18 of the NFL games and the national championship, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Go Dogs.
We'll see. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Perfect. Oops.
All right, dude. I'm gonna skedaddle.
I'm not gonna cut this thing. Shoot.
Why'd you have to cut it?